guys, how you doing? Today I'm going to be talking about the irrigation system that I am putting in through my whole entire yard. Now I'm going to break this down to two different segments because it would take me hours to explain everything that I've done and everything that I'm going to be changing. So if you're anything like me and you are tired of hand watering, come and learn how you can set up an irrigation system in your yard according to your plant's watering requirements, because every plant requires different watering, and so therefore I am using different watering mediums, and I'm going to explain all that. I'm also going to show you the very first steps that I took in even getting started. So with that, let's get started. So before I get started with showing you my main irrigation line, and one of the very first steps that I took, I'm going to show you some of the things that are possibilities out there for irrigating your plants. First, you have soaker hoses. You've got a 1/4 inch soaker hoses that you can tap from your main watering source. You've got 3/8 soaker hoses that you can run from your main faucet. Then you have a 1/4 inch irrigation tube. These are great for containers and also tapping from your main water source into different plants. They also make watering meter tubes, or irrigation tubes rather, that have meters every 12 inches in a 4-inch piping like this. Or you can do 12-inch, I believe this is 12-inch meter tubing, and this is brown. They come in black, so you've got different options. This is 250 feet. You're gonna need end stoppers, which is a figure 8, or you can do an end stopper such as this, and it also has the ability to thread in a hose if you need to, but this will stop your water from dripping anywhere at the end. So this is my irrigation, how it works. You've got your corner bracket, you've got your T, your cross where you connect two hoses together anytime you splice them together. My drip meters, my little small T's for my 1/4 inch piping, my straight connectors, and I believe I have corners in here as well. Then I have my T's that I can connect my hose, place it wherever I need, place a meter at the end of it, and put it into the base of your plant. I will go over that as we walk through on how I did mine. This is the end of my pipe, so I'm going to start from the end and then go forward. This black pipe is a 1/2 inch irrigation tube. This comes in anywhere from 25 feet to 250 feet. I did do splits, so I will show you that, but this is what you're going to tap your water source from. As you can see, I ran it all the way around the tree, and from here I cut one line that went this direction. Now that is still pretty large, so I'm going to cut it because I'll show you the reason why I'm going to do that. But I teed it right here. I used a T-bar right over here. And I ran one line this way. This way, if I want to plant anything in my pergola or put shells for watering during the summer, I can do that in there. I don't have to worry about running a hose. I've got access to water there. Now, the other hose, the splitter, I ran this direction, and this line here, I ran completely all the way to the other end of my yard, all along this fence right here. And because I didn't have to split it over there, I just kind of ran one full line all the way down to my runner on my chicken coop. I'll show you that in a minute. So here you can see it a little bit more clear, and again it runs just along the fence here, circles around, all the way around, against the fence, over to the back of the runner, and in the back of the chicken coop. And I did a splitter, 2 splitters right over in this area. I'll show you that in a minute. And then I added a couple of drip lines right here for my star jasmine. So this irrigation main line goes all the way to the front end of my yard. This is why I needed 500 feet of tubing, and I didn't even use but half of it. So that may kind of give you an indication. So once I got to this corner here, well, hi there, fella. Did you come to visit me? This little fella comes to see me all the time, and he captures my attention and then does his thing. He's getting some belly there. I wonder if it's a female and she's pregnant. Anyway, back to my plant. Got a little sidetracked here. But right here, as you can see, the ground is wet. And I have 1 meter. That's perfect. Over underneath my Sylvia Hot Lips, I ended up doing a splitter there because I kind of put in a drip line and then I messed up, so I had to cut it there. So I ended up putting just a regular tube. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a bubbler right down there. Those work really great. As you can see, the ground is wet. And all my coneflowers, they're drought tolerant. They don't need a whole lot of watering. So what I did here is I just connected a soaker hose, the 1/4 soaker hose, as you can see, right around here. And I just ran it all along down the bottom. My pot of gold, my cocosima, I have a soaker hose all the way around that. And I also have it around my snapdragon there. Here for my elderberry, I have a connector for a tree and shrub, which is the 1 gallon per hour meter. And then over here, as you can see, I have another line, that little brown one, that's connected from my main water source over here. And then I just connected another soaker hose right around this area. Now, this plant and these plants have no soaker hoses whatsoever, so I will be connecting more soaker hoses around that area here. And then over here, what I did, because it went around the bin, my macrophylla over here doesn't need a lot of water, neither do any of my hostas. However, my clematis do, but I do have the 1/4 inch soaker hoses here along with my painted fern here, and I have it around my hydrangea. Hydrangeas don't want their feet wet, but they want even moist, and this 1/4 inch soaker hose runs really well. I have 1 line, as you can see, that I did, and I connected it to I teed it right here to the soaker hose and just placed it around it. This spigot right here, they work like a sprinkler system. Now, it's a hit and miss for me because some of them worked, some of them didn't. Over here, I did a cross tee, and so this main irrigation goes that direction behind my chicken coop, and then I just ran another line in front of it, which then I put a gobbler right underneath here so it waters that. This is my St. John's wort plant. I just added a gobbler, as you can see right there. I connected it from the main line, the brown line, over there. And then over here by the chicken coop, I ran a T over here. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but I ran a T, as you can see, right there. And I ran this hose all along in the front of top of my runner because I had no other place. And that one waters my lilac tree over here. right there, which is about 2 feet apart, I ran another cross top, and that one runs up to the top of my chicken coop up here and across all my garden right here. And I've already harvested a big portion of it, as you saw in my earlier video. And this I need to work with because I have gobblers going. I've got 1/4-inch soaker hoses, and then I have some drip meters here. So I gotta work the kinks out on this one. So again, my line runs all the way behind my chicken coop over here. Tucked it in the other side of the fence. I could have tucked it underneath the fence. That would have worked too. And then I brought it from all the way from the backyard where I teed it from on top of my runner, and I ran it all the way before I leave. Look at this. Look at this big, huge orc weaver. And he's been feasting on the same bug for a while. Anyway, another story. But I ran my main water line, as you can see, all the way across my fence. Now this is going to be a bit of a spoiler alert. It's something I'm working on, so just pretend you don't see it. But from here all the way across is where my main water source is. I put a timer there, and I also grabbed a timer that has additional outlets for water, so that if I want to connect something else, like right now I have this hose here is what feeds this side. This hose here runs in to just a handheld in case I need it for a different watering source. I'm not messing with any of my timer. So I have some hot water here because I'm going to add this soaker hose over here, and I'll show you how that's done. So I'm going to go ahead and slice it right about here. Now once these are put on, they're kind of hard to take off. However, I can just cut it with a knife and then it'll be good to go to reuse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it in hot water. And you just need to put it in there for like, maybe less than a minute. You just want it warm where it's flexible. And then you just want to squeeze it in there. It does take some muscle. So when you take the end cap off, and you're not going to be able to see this, but I can feel it. So the hose is about right here, right now. I want to make sure that it's a lot further in. There, it's about 3/4 way in. It's good enough. I can connect my soaker hose over here, and then it'll water this plant right here. This is a nice thing about the end caps. So I'll just run my soaker hose right along that, get rid of my water, and we'll put it on this side. So they make end caps for the 3/8 inch. They come already on the hoses. I just popped it out from the other existing hose, and I'm just going to place it to the end of this. But that stops that. So now I'm just going to place my U-shaped staples to keep it down. So you may ask, well, why did you put a main line if you're going to not use it over here? Well, the reason for that is because if I plant something back here, I have access to it back there. So it does serve a purpose. Plus, since I'm going to Holland for a couple of weeks in another week, this is going to work really great. It's so much better than having somebody to come over and hand water your plants and risk losing your plants because, you know, they're not familiar with your plants, they don't know how much water it takes, and unless you know the water requirements for certain plants, it's very easy to overwater or underwater. So this way I can monitor it for the next week, see how well it's doing, see if I'm overwatering or if I need to change this or whatever. So from this point on over in this direction, I don't have any plants right back there, so there's no point in adding any of this and wasting water. So I'm just going to set one completely over in here, probably about maybe 8 feet of this is all I need. Now, the thing with these is that they're very stiff, so it's always a good idea to set them out in the sun, although I didn't find that that really helped a whole heck of a lot. So I will just run that. So when you're using this that has the meters on it, always make sure that you connect it from your main irrigation line, cut it halfway and connect it there, because otherwise you're going to be adding water right next to your foundation if you're putting this by your foundation, or you're going to be wasting water where you don't really need to be watering. So I'm going to add it, I'm going to cut it right in the dead center there, and that should be enough. So let's go and throw those. I have to feed it in here, and then I'm going to be using this staple to hold it down. Now I will be ending with an end cap over here. And I'm going to just kind of bend it, because I'm going to be splicing it. So I'm going to splice this right here on my main irrigation line, and then I'm going to put a T. These, they can be a little tough, but they're much easier when you're doing two ends. And you just move it back and forth and it will go in. Now I will grab my meter hose and I will tuck that in. There. Just put a staple on there. And the way I'm putting this is so it's kind of in the center of my group of plants here. Again, they don't need a lot of water. So just having this additional black soaker hose is going to be fun. Okay, now I'll show you real close how I did in case you didn't get it. I spliced it in the center, put a T right there, did a drip line right here, and I put it in between my plants here. I left my 1/4 inch soaker hoses in there. Then over here, I stapled it down there. So that'll water all of these plants. On this end, I folded it down, put the figure 8 on there, and stapled it down. At some point, I will go ahead and do the drip meters in the springtime and change it out, but for now, because my plants are established, I'm going to go ahead and do this, and also because I already have some drip meters over here, and so I don't want to take them out. So let me bring you really close and start putting this up. Okay, so right down here I have an end cap. I'm just going to take the top off of it and connect my soaker hose to it. Make it nice and tight. I'm going to just staple that down. Just will run it right in front. Put it right in between my shrub. Okay, so let me reiterate what I did here. I connected my soaker hose right here, and I connected it to the main irrigation line. I ran it in front all the way in between my conant grass and my shrub. I kind of went in and around my heucheras and in and around on my hostas, but I think this should be sufficient right around my hydrangea. So that's how I set up this portion of my irrigation. I think the soaker hose for this area is perfect. So we'll see how long they last. Again, in the springtime I may change that up a bit, but for now this is going to work just fine. I put the same soaker hose over here. I turned on the water, and it proved that it watered these really well. So a half hour in the morning, a half hour at 9:30 at night, I think is going to be more than enough. And as I explained earlier, there are quite a few that you can work with. It's just going to depend on your yard and what your flowers require as far as water. But I'm going to reel the clock back because I want to share with you the very first initial things that I did that I find was very helpful for me. The very first step that I took is I walked around my whole perimeter of my yard. And it's very important to be able to locate your water source. Now I have a faucet on the south side and I have a faucet in the north side. I have timers. But what I did that was more important after I walked my whole entire yard is that I mapped out my whole entire yard on paper. I'm a very visual person, so seeing it on paper really helped me out before I ever purchased one little thing. Now I did go and order my main irrigation line because I already knew the outline of my property and I knew kind of where I wanted to put it according to my yard. But mapping it out really helped because it helped me to visually see where I needed to splice, where my plants were grouped at and everything. Now, every yard is going to be different because you may be starting your irrigation system where you have absolutely no plants. With me, all of my plants are well established and a lot of them are new and some of them are drought tolerant, some of them require a little bit more water than others, but for the most part, it's an easy peasy thing for my yard. The other thing that I felt that was very handy, and it was something that I learned because when I first started putting the whole line in, I was running around finding my tools. Having a fanny pack has been a lifesaver because in here I'm able to put all of my tools in here. I can put my pliers in here. I can add all of my hose staples in here. I can add all of these in here. I can add all of my end stocks. in here. And then over here, I have my stakes for my hoses. So if you have a drip line, you can buy these little inexpensive stakes, and then you can put it on the drip line. I used some of them I didn't. But with these little bobblers, you don't need this. So I find that both of these are good to have. But there you go. Put that in there. In this zipper, I have my bobblers. I have my different drip meters. I have my cross tees over here for this 1/4 inch drip line, which you just attach it like that. I don't know if you can see that. Or I have the cross tees that I can add to both of them, and then I can run another drip line over here. So having a fanny pack has been a lifesaver. So let's talk about all these things here. Again, I'm just going to reiterate. We've got a 1/4 inch soaker hose here. This will work really good for containers, so it's good to have on hand. Then you have 3/8 of a soaker hose. This attaches really easy at the end of your, what did I do with it? These are your end stops for watering. You could use these, or you could use these figure 8 hose tops. These are fairly inexpensive, but so are these. These are probably like maybe 50 cents more. And I like these because the cap comes off, and then you can attach a soaker hose to it quite easily from your main irrigation line. And that I really like, because as you saw earlier, I did put a soaker hose around my Jscursions that I just planted, and that works really, really great. So I think this 3/8 soaker hoses, these are like $19. This is 50 feet of this. It's a lot cheaper than this. I believe these are like about $34. This one here is 250 yards, or 250 feet, excuse me. And this one here is the drip irrigation that has meters every 18 inches. You can find them that have every 12 inches. This I will use as well, so I think this is important to have on hand at all times. The other thing that I find really helpful that was worked in my yard was these little drip bubblers. As I showed you, underneath my hot lip salvia, this was enough to water that whole plant. So if you have a very large bush or a pretty large established plant, this is going to be plenty. It worked beautifully. It just stakes down in the ground really low. So I like these a lot. What I didn't like is this setup right here, where it had basically had this it's at 1/4 inch piping, and then this stood up, and it just clips on like this. And it feels like it's nice and sturdy, but I kept finding that it would fall off constantly, and it stakes up quite high in your yard. So it can work, because there's this little knob here that you can turn, and then you could do, it can go circular, it can just go half moon. So it can work, but personally, I wouldn't even waste my money, even though they're not that expensive. They're probably $2 or $3 for this. Now, you can find meter hoses that are 1/4 inch as well, but these are primarily used for containers. They're used for, like you saw underneath my hot lip salvia, where I just connected one end to my main irrigation hose, and then the other one I did a drip meter to to the base of my hot lips. So that worked really well. So now this is kind of like a model of my yard. So this is my irrigation all along the fence of my backyard. This goes along the chicken coop. Then I have 2 splices. I have quite a few splices, which I showed you. But this is easy to turn, which is really nice. So one went up to the top of my chicken coop. Then I had another splice about right here where it went across my chicken runner. So this was really a good visual for me. You're going to need a T, you're going to need a straight, and you're going to need elbows. These you can't have enough of. They're very important to have. The other thing that's very important to have is Goof Plugs. These things work really, really great. So I have an example right here. I'll bring it really close. So if you make a hole and it is in the wrong spot, this little Goof Plugs right here that you see, they come quite a few of them, and they're very inexpensive, and it seems to work just fine. So all you do, once you have that mistake hole, and this is pretty tough, so it's a nice thing to have a set of pliers with ya. And then you just get it, pop it in. Once you pop it in, it is in there and it is going to plug that hole. So these are really good to have. Okay, so this is one form of creating holes in your hose, in your main irrigation hose. So if I push down on it, you can see there's like a nail right there. It's very important to know where that comes out of, because you want to make sure that you know that it's right where the blue is, because if you punch a hole on this and you don't know where it is, it could be simply in the back. The other thing that I purchased that I didn't necessarily have to buy, but you know, it comes in handy, is what looks to be like a nipper, but this is a hose cutter. This actually just completely cuts your hose, just like that. However, nippers work really good. So if you have nippers, this works just as well to do the job. Let me do that again, because that was pretty sloppy. So if you have nippers, this will work just as well. So you don't necessarily need to go purchase this, because this are probably like, they can range. They can be anywhere from $15, if not more. But I have it, so I keep it in my bag. The other thing is that you can purchase these, again, these figure 8 stoppers, and the way these work basically is that you put one end of your hose in, you drop the other end and you fold it, and then that stops the water. This works, but personally I like the end caps so much better, because you can attach other items to it if you ever need to do that. And I will be adding soaker hoses to the very front end, and I will be adding some of these on my next segment. So if you have any questions on any of this, please leave it in the comments below. Okay? So that's going to do it for me, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to get up, get out, and get active. Set out an irrigation system, even if it's in a container, because it'll save you so much time and headaches from having to hand water. So I will see you guys on segment number 2. For now, mwah! Love you. And I'll see you. Bye-bye.